Hi, this is Becky with Icing on Top Becky's Cakes, and today we're going to do a rosette ombre cake. And the ombre just means we're going to do it in shades of dark to light all the way as we get up. And I'm using this Wilton marker to mark off exactly how much I want between the space of each ombre. So I'm doing 1.5 inches between each rosette that I'm going to do. But see, the very top one, I'm going to make sure that I have enough space for that top one to overlap over the top. So I'm going to make sure that it is high enough that the top rosette will carry over to the top of the cake. But if you're going to have a smooth top and not carry over to the top of the cake, then you'll want the very top to be down a little ways, so that you're just going to adjust them to make it down a little ways. So you might want a taller cake. If you're going to do 3 on one side, you might want the cake a little taller, but my cake is about 3 layers, each layer being about an 1.5 inches. So we're going to mark that off like that. And also mine is only about a 5-inch round cake, so it's a nice smaller cake that I'm going to show on you today. Now, if you didn't have the Wilton marker, you can easily use a ruler and some toothpicks. You can tape the toothpicks to the ruler at the points that you want to mark it off and do it that way. Now for this coloring, I'm going to use the Dusty Rose by Americolor. And the bottom row of rosettes is going to be really dark. That's going to be our darkest color. I'm using this Wilton 1M tip, which I like best for rosettes. I just have the most control with it, and it really gives me no fail rosettes every time, so that's usually the tip I stick with. Now each rosette that we pipe, we're going to press it into our cake. This is a freshly crumb coated cake, and that way our rosettes will stick to it and not fall off later. So we're going to swirl around in the middle between the line and then keep going and make sure that tail goes far enough over. Otherwise we're going to get little gaps and spots. And then right where that tail is, that's where you're going to start the next rosette. Just go around, and the key to this is always kind of overlap the other rosette. And that way you don't get any like white spaces in between. So right on that tail, pipe around, and then swipe it up for the next tail. Now the reason I gave you the warning about the rosettes falling off the cake is because I have heard that happening to people before, and I believe it's because they've used a cake that they've crumb coated and then put back in the fridge and then pulled out, and then when they put the rosettes on, it doesn't stick very well to the buttercream that has been crusted or in the fridge and not quite as sticky. Because buttercream often acts like glue. So if you have fresh buttercream on your cake, then your rosettes will stick to that. Now the last rosette, obviously we can't tuck the tail, so we're just gonna slide it up there. This is where I'm gonna call the back of the cake. Okay, now to do the next color, I'm gonna take a heaping tablespoon of the color I just did. This is how we're going to do each color. You always do the color you just did rather than going back to the original color. But of course, in this case, it is our original color. But when you do the next ones, you'll take the shade, the lighter shade that you've done, take a big scoop of that, and then make sure you always put in more of the white than the scoop it is. That way you can see a difference. So I've got almost double the white ratio that I do have of the dark. So it's 2-to-1 ratio from white to the darker color you have. Make sure you mix it really good so that you don't see any white streaks, because that's not the look we're going for today. So it's a very nice pink this time. It's probably the pink that you wanted the Dusty Rose to be. And we're going to pipe the same way, only going to make sure I overlap these two and it's in between the row I just did, and then it kind of nestles really good right in between the previous rows. This one's going to be right on the tail of that one, but right in between those two. So that helps us know exactly where our next rosette is going to go. And when I'm piping the rosette, the first part of it, I'm pressing in to the cake. But then you're going to use the pressure in your piping bag to help it pipe around, and that kind of gives you a very fluffy rosette look rather than pressing the entire rosette into the cake. Then you have more of a smushed rosette if you're just pressing the entire rosette. But you want to press the beginning just to make sure that the rosette's going to stick there. Now, I've called the rosette cakes the buttercream lover's cake because especially the small one, look at it, it's like encased in buttercream. But on bigger cakes it's a little better of a ratio, but a small one like this is you're eating a lot of buttercream. But you know, I have not had complaints yet about too much buttercream, and that surprises me because personally I like a better cake to buttercream ratio myself, but this is a yummy buttercream, so no complaints from customers yet. I figure if they're ordering this kind of a cake, they probably are already buttercream lovers. But if you want this recipe, I also have it on my channel under, this is a mock vanilla buttercream, and mock means it's made with high ratio icing. That means it's gonna hold up better in the heat than regular butter, and it makes piping a dream. So I love this for piping, and I love this for smoothing. Actually, I pretty much use this icing for all my cakes. But there's that row. Now for the next row, again, we're gonna use about a tablespoon of the color we just piped on, not the darker color. And then we're gonna double up on the vanilla, about a 2-to-1 ratio here. And then we're gonna mix again really super good. Now you might be wondering, with my piping bag, do I keep getting a new piping bag every time? No, I go to the sink, I rinse it out with nice hot water, melt all that buttercream through, and then I wipe it out with a paper towel, and then I use it for the next row. That way you're not using a million piping bags every single time. Anyway, this one's ready to go. This is the row I call tricky. I'm gonna actually mark off where I want each one to end. You don't have to, but I kind of always like to see where I'm going with this, and that way I have my lines straight. You can use a toothpick if you don't have, what was it, some kind of cutout that I used there. This is the row I call the tricky row because you're going to want to go up and over. So we're going to pipe right at the top, put that up and over, and come around so that we're in between these, and then pull up and put the tail right at the top where the next one's going to be. The easiest way I can explain this is when you're piping the top, you're doing a lot of pressure on your bag to kind of push that icing over the top. And once you get the motion going, it's not that hard, but it's the trickiest row because you're going over the top. But again, here it is right at the top. We're going up, pressing on our piping bag to make sure that goes up and over. Come around and place the tail there for the next one. Also, another tip is if you see me pause between each rosette, it's because I'm probably wiping off my tip with a paper towel. And I always keep that paper towel on hand because you always want a clean tip so that you get all the details of your rosette. So if your tip's not clean, your rosette gets kind of smudgy and just not looking as good. So yes, I keep my paper towels on hand. I go through quite a few of these on a rosette cake, just making sure I keep my tip clean, and then I pipe the next rosette. Now the top layer, again, we have a little bit of a different style here because we are not going to exactly go in between each rosette of the previous. So you just kind of have to pipe it out here. And no, I did not mark off where I'm going. I'm just going to pipe around my rosette there, but I'm still going to go over the tails, but you aren't going to have room to go in between because you're only going to get a few in up here. But if you were to smooth your cake because you're writing happy birthday or you have some other design on top, you wouldn't have to worry about this part. And now for the very center, we're going to have the palest color. So we're just going to pipe one rosette right in the very center. On some, I've even done just like a buttercream rose, like a real rose looking one in the center, or you can even put a little pearl in the center or something different if you want. But we're just going for just the classic look this time. But there are so many options of colors and sizes. I've done it on really big cakes, really small cakes, and it's fun every single time. And if you have taller cakes, you can fit more rosette circles. But thanks for watching with me, and please subscribe to my channel.